I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Welcome to the 15th episode of Playing from the Tips, Golf Australia magazine's tips and preview show covering all the happenings in the week ahead for golf around the globe. Jimmy Emanuel here in the host chair, guiding a journey that will cover LIV Golf in the week after it got its first active player winning a major, the PGA Tour in Texas, matchplay on the LPGA Tour, and the DP World Tour in Holland. Along for that American-centric globetrotting journey are two of our so-called experts, one off a spell and one who hasn't had a break since Brooks Koepka was still playing the Challenge Tour. First, sorry, I expected there to be some sort of fanfare music coming through, but we welcome back the tipping maestro that is Adrian Logue after Ewan Porter admirably took his place last week. Logue, welcome back. Would you have tipped Brooks Koepka last week?
Sure, yes. Of course I would.
Of course.
But in all seriousness, that course I think was a lot like Bethpage Black. Yeah. And Brooks had won there, of course, and I think it was the sort of course that he would have won on. So, yeah, I can confidently say in retrospect I would have picked Brooks.
He's kind of like a specialist of US Open light, which is what we got last week.
And US Open.
And US Open heavy.
Correct. Yeah. Next is the Michael Block of the golf podcast world, hardworking and shunning the big stage in favour of honest work,
crowd
but
favourite,
thriving when pushed into the limelight. Rod Morri, welcome.
Man of the people.
Dear, oh dear.
The people's
Thank you very much. Yeah. What a story that was, though.
Unbelievable.
We'll be tired of it before long.
Oh, yeah.
They'll milk everything out.
Something bad will come out about him or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But honestly,
some skeleton in the closet.
He seems like a thoroughly nice
He does. I was watching the first round. I didn't get to watch much of the golf. I've been sick, as you can probably hear. I didn't get to watch much of it. But I watched the first round and I saw his walk and talk, and I thought on the 14th hole, I was like, this guy's really got something.
He does.
He was terrific. He had a smile and all the rest of it. And he explained all that later, saying, when you deal with everyone from the cook to the complaining to that, you learn to be a people person. But I remember thinking at the time, I hope he plays well this week, never expecting he would do what he did. And but,
2 par threes in the week, and he had a shank and a hole in one.
Just extraordinary.
Like that's crazy stuff.
Well,
it's at nowhere as well.
No, not exactly. Nowhere. I had a look at his stats. It doesn't go nowhere. But straight as an arrow.
Grading on a curve. He hits it nowhere compared to a tour player.
Yeah. Well, that's,
they're averaging 300, most of them, and he's not in that kind of league.
And plays again this week.
Well, yeah, it'll be really interesting
and
to see.
And has been invited to the Canadian Open as well.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Another narrow course too this week. So
Colonial's actually perfect, really. Yeah. Putting would be the issue, because he putted really good on pure but slower greens than what they would be. So we'll see.
Anyway, we can talk about that.
Before we move ahead into this week, we're going to recap our tips from the PGA Championship, where across all the categories, our expanded panel of so-called experts collected 6 top 10s and a win. That Brooks Koepka tip delivered by Golf Australia's Man About Golf and my online tormentor, Mark Hayes, which takes us to 13 wins and 93 top 10s to date. So nearly at the 100 mark. Okay.
So I've contributed nearly half those
I don't know,
wins,
and I don't really care, to be honest.
And I've missed a few episodes as well.
It's amazing, really. You like Brooks Koepka. Missed a period, but still winning.
That's how the greats do
it. And any other thoughts on Oak Hill before we push ahead? Brooks Koepka, obviously, the main story, extremely impressive. Major number 5, 3rd in New York State.
Two stories, I reckon, that flew completely under the radar for the week. Cam Davis finishing tied 4th. I don't know why people don't take notice of Cam Davis, but they don't. And Kurt Kitayama.
Yep.
Where's he come from? Out of nowhere. I remember watching him on the European Tour in sort of the last few years, and suddenly he wins Arnold Palmer, and then he's tied 4th this week, which is an incredibly impressive performance, I think.
Great friend of Minwoo Lee, Kurt Kitayama.
Is that right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Spent a lot of time practicing and playing together.
Yeah. They were the two for me.
I think Cam Davis, absolutely. He has that game. I actually tipped him to be the outsider last week. Yeah. So he has that game for those sort of things. He's not going to be there every single week because he's kind of got to get it, but he hits it a mile in the air, hits it a long way. He's got every tool to win, one of those big events, particularly in America. So
it's the mindset, I think, with Cam. He just is not at all afraid when the moment comes on a Sunday which is when most players find out whether they got it or not. He's no question he's got it. He just keeps pushing for it. I always go back to that Australian Open that he won from nowhere. No one had even heard of him. And he just ripped the course apart on Sunday.
He's probably a more older style player trajectory where he's taken his little steps bit by bit by bit by bit.
Yeah, good point.
Unlike guys like Min Woo and all these younger guys who come out and win straight away and become superstars straight away and bask in it, Cam's taken that very slow by slow thing, and he'll end up with a really tidy career, and I don't know why more people don't pay more attention.
He's not a spotlight lover either, I don't think.
He
doesn't do anything to attract attention to them. I mean, Min Woo loves it. You can tell he admits it himself. He's a show-off. He wants people to watch him. He wants to be in the big moment and all of that sort of stuff. Cam Davis is a bit more like Kari Webb, I think, in that they're just good at it and they're there and they enjoy it, but for themselves, not for the accolades or the attention that it brings. And in fact, they're probably a bit uncomfortable with that in some ways.
He might be really good too. I think the President's Cup gave him a bit of confidence.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that would have been a nice team thing for him too. I think to be a part of that team environment, he would have really... Anyway, Cam Davis, I think we're really underrating him.
I've one more thing, and I say this with the greatest respect to greenkeepers and the amazing job and the great hard work they did. But every time I see one of these massive US events staged at a course where it's just wall-to-wall manicured turf, it really pisses me off. And I just want to call it out every time I see it, because I think Oak Hill was magnificent, but it had the biodiversity of a car park.
Yeah.
It's just...
The setup was a bit disappointing.
Bit over the top, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not even talking about a setup thing. It's just
the look of
like,
it and
the fact they're back in the rough with leaf blowers in the rough and rakes like manicuring the rough way off.
We had a
actual
photo
playing surfaces, like way away from the playing surfaces where you could have it could be naturalised.
We had a photo in one of the galleries on the website during the weekend. I think there was about 13 guys in one bunker with leaf blowers and rakes and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, I understand this is your big moment, and there was weather too that you're dealing with, but surely we can just forgive a few little areas and move along a bit more. And
it looks, I say this every time, but the moment one person trudges through that perfectly manicured rough, it looks terrible. It goes from looking 100% to looking 0%.
Yeah, and there was a couple of cases of
British Open rough. You can you could have 100 people trudge through it, and it's going to take a bit of a beating, but it'll still look okay.
And that
still looks rugged.
That rough, there was a couple of cases of guys just missing fairways who then could barely advance it. Where if you missed it way out there, because it is that stuff that instantly goes down, you're at a bigger advantage.
Yeah,
it was one of those places that miss wide, you're in better spots.
It's a real cultural thing, though, isn't it? I'm not sure how it's going to change. It would need to be generational. It'll take years before people accept that that's not the way golf courses should look.
Exactly, and the reason why I keep calling it out is because it's these showcase events that will bring about that generational change.
Absolutely.
And we keep putting these showcase events on places which make golf look like something it shouldn't be.
Let's go to a golf course that falls right into that category first up. So we'll go to Washington, D.C. in inverted commas for LIV Golf and their return, and they'll be in overdrive this week after Brooks Koepka's win, despite the fact that he spoke about not really being the spokesperson for that very well, I think.
That was interesting, was it not?
Interesting indeed. So he's going to be the main story here after a fifth major. Whether his competitive juices will be exactly flowing after he was planning to go watch a Predators ice hockey game and undoubtedly have a few adult beverages will remain to be seen. The course here is is Trump National Golf Club, Washington, D.C., that is actually located in the state of Virginia, like much of the sort of surrounding infrastructure in D.C. Was once known as the Lowe's Island Club before Donald Trump bought the property in 2009, and Tom Fazio came in to do the redesign with 36 holes there, championship and Riverview course. It's on the banks of the Potomac River, and the back nine here features pretty much water in every single hole in play, while the typical sort of Trump golf experience of highly manicured playing surfaces, white sand bunkers will be familiar to many, and obviously right up Logue's alley. Of course, it wouldn't be a Trump-named golf course without some controversy. So it was here where he used to go and play when he was the sitting president, but also got into trouble for clearing hundreds of trees, I believe nearly 500, to open up the views of the Potomac, and also had a monument placed for lost Civil War soldiers
that was here.
That was brought into question because there was apparently no battles anywhere near the place.
Yes, I remember
that. Yeah, it's like the Blood River Monument. They say the Potomac turned red with blood from soldiers, and No one actually really
historically completely incorrect, falsified. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, same 48 players as ever. Lee Westwood notably returning after withdrawing in Tulsa. Most eyes on the returning from the majors: Bryson DeChambeau, Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Cam Smith and Koepka are the sort of main ones there. Cam came home strong on Sunday at Oak Hill and looks very close to finding something and having a win. DeChambeau is probably an interesting one this week. Good week last week at the PGA, and he's kind of going back to the future with his approach, with his game and his body before bulking up. So he's one to watch a little bit this week as well. And this sort of golf course will suit him very, very well. In terms of who can win, I like one of the guys who didn't get beaten to a pulp at Oak Hill last week. So Sergio Garcia for me.
Oh, there you go. Interesting. Me?
Yeah, he went Monday qualifying for the Open this week as well, or for the US Open.
Sergio?
Yeah.
Oh, good on him.
Well, actually, yeah, good on him. I would not have expected that.
And according to his Instagram, put a new grip on his putter while the final round of the PGA was going on.
He did himself.
Yeah.
Put his own grip.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me.
No, it wouldn't surprise me. Most of those guys can actually do that.
All those guys do that.
And do that, but yeah, you don't think of them out in the workshop there. Yeah, good call in that case, Jimmy. I'm going to go with Cam Smith. I thought his Sunday play at Oak Hill was staggering. Lost the week before the PGA in a playoff with Dustin Johnson. I agree with you. And I still feel like he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder about the criticism he got for going to LIV.
Cam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's clearly irked often by the constant mention of it. That's how it looks to me. And so every week I think he has that little bit of, I'm going to show these people. So, yeah, I think Cam this week.
Yep. Logue?
Putting a new grip on his putter wasn't a euphemism for what he was seeing while he was enjoing Brooks Koepka's win as a LIV representative there. Okay.
I believe it was a super stroke.
Excellent. I like Bryson DeChambeau, showed signs of life last week. He showed a bit of ticker too, which was good. And I think he's building in confidence, and I'm picking him for the LIV event this week.
He's playing well at the majors for these guys like Brooks. Mm-hmm. Does that make it more difficult to get up for these LIV events afterwards? Or does it inspire them?
It does for some of them.
Like Brooks at Crooked Cat. Let's never forget Crooked Cat.
Let's never forget Crooked Cat.
No one who listens to this podcast will because of you, yes.
Brooks used that, I think, as a proving ground for like, okay, let's turn it on this week, see if I've got it. Oh, yeah, I've got it. I'm good.
You can do it at Crooked Cat.
Let's get into the majors. Yeah. And I think Bryson needs to do a similar exercise where he goes, let's see if I can turn it on this week. And am I Bryson still? And
he seems like he's really. I spoke to him at Adelaide, and he seems like he is genuinely really working hard, but finding the balance at LIV events is very difficult for him. Whereas he goes to a PGA and there's none of the side distractions, I think. Showed some maturity last week as well, being booed and talking about, that's just New York. I think 2 years ago that would have really rattled Bryson's cage. Yeah. He and Brooks played on Saturday and got along, which was, good on them, but they clearly still don't get along like great friends. But he's shown a lot of maturity, I think, which is something you wouldn't have ever thought. So, yeah, good tip. On to the next, and let's go to Texas for the Charles Schwab Challenge on the PGA Tour, better known as Colonial. Rod, take it away.
Yes, and better known as Colonial, you're right, for good reason. This has been on the schedule at this golf course since 1946. Yes, or schedule. 1946. There's only 9 tournaments that have been on the PGA Tour schedule longer. So that's pretty impressive. You'll hear a lot about Ben Hogan this week, as you should. 5 times the winner of the tournament. Also lived in Fort Worth. He was a fixture around the place for lots of years before moving over to Shady Oaks. It's one of the multiple venues around the world known as Hogan's Alley. Riviera to Carnoustie, 6-hole to here. But great history there, obviously. But more interesting than I think is the founder of the club, Marvin Leonard, who was actually a mentor for Hogan.
And sponsor.
And people will be quite familiar with the story. But the way Colonial came about, Marvin Leonard liked bent grass greens, and they were just non-existent in Texas at that time. So he was a member of a course called Rivercrest, and he kept trying to get them to try and put in a couple of bent grass greens to see if they could make it work, and they kept saying no. He offered to pay for it. They kept saying no. Eventually, the president of the club said to him, Marvin, if you want a golf course with bent grass greens in Texas, go build your own. So he did. And here we are, 70-something years later, at playing at that same golf course. I love that as a story and how these things sort of developed. So you'll hear the term horrible horseshoe ad nauseum this week because as golf tends to do, they take, the snake pit and the bear trap and all of that stuff because it worked for Augusta National and they flog it until it's unbearable. Holes 3, 4 and 5. It is the hardest 3-hole stretch on the PGA Tour. There is a stat for everything, but 3 nasty little holes 3, 4 and 5. Perry Maxwell design, so it's good, though it's changed a lot over the years, as you'd imagine. Last time we'll see the course in this particular iteration because Gil Hands is going to start tearing it up on Monday and restoring it. So I'm hopeful that a bit like Oak Hill last week, which I thought was fabulous visually and everything about the golf course was really and so much better than what we saw there in 2013.
Incredible. It had character.
It really did. You'd hope that 2024 at the Colonial, we're going to be having the same kind of reaction of, wow, this is fabulous. This is golf how it should be. So that'll be interesting to see. Players, man of the moment's Michael Block. Will be interesting to watch how he goes this week. I mean, he's got to be knackered.
Oh, absolutely.
The only person who's done more media and had more attention on him than Brooks Koepka would be Michael Block, and he's stepped out of the pro shop for that over in Texas. But look, good luck to him. He said a couple of things during the week that I thought were interesting, which he clearly believes he's good enough to play at this level.
Yeah.
He just never has.
Yep.
He's played a bit. I mean, he's played
a bit. I know he's played a few times. He's never had his best stuff, but almost like he had a realisation this week. You know what? I just need to be me and I'll be okay, which is really kind of important for golfers.
Maybe he's been trying to be Omar Aresti all these times.
That's right.
We've all been trying to be Omar
Aresti.
Interestingly, I think on him, when he spoke with Live from after the coverage and they said, so you're going to Champions Tour school? He turns 47 very shortly. He said, no interest.
Why would he?
Which I was amazed by. I mean, those guys who I've worked with a lot of guys here and overseas guys as well that, I'm just going to keep going through my 40s and then I'll go to tour school and all this. And he's just not interested. I've done it and going to go to US Open qualifying school with his son.
I think, they're through to sectionals or something.
They're through to sectionals.
That's right.
Yeah.
Look, and one of the things I really liked about Michael Block was he talked about his best friend being not only his dog, which is admirable, but a black lab. The man's a winner.
Okay.
Anyone who's got a black lab and that's their best friend, why would you go and play tour golf?
Okay.
When you can stay home with your dog.
Yeah.
So, look, he'll be interesting to see this week. No idea whether he'll falter or win. Who knows? More likely contenders will come from the more recognisable names. I was surprised to see Scotty Scheffler and Victor Hovland both in the field this week.
Scotty Scheffler's from Texas.
Yeah, I know, I get that, but still you would think he'll be tired, you would think.
Yeah.
After last week. That was a pretty gruelling week. But look, good luck to him. And Victor Hovland will be interesting to see how he goes. Not sure what to expect from either, but they're not in the world top 10 by accident, so you'd have to think they'll have a chance come Sunday. Lots of people like Jordan Spieth's chances this week, with good reason. The only question mark over him, I suppose, is the wrist injury. Actually played okay at the PGA.
Yeah, he was
told. Won under the final round.
Yeah.
Finished in the top 30. I mean, hardly disgraceful by any stretch of the imagination. So watch out for him. He's just said publicly several times, he loves this place.
Yeah.
10 times he's been there. 8 top 10s. Never missed the cut. So, especially for us, interesting for us here in Australia, though, I think will be someone we've already mentioned, Cam Davis and Minwoo Lee, both in the field. Minwoo's first event as a special temporary member of the tour. So he'll be madly trying to accrue, I think it's points. Is it points that determine?
There's a detailed explanation on the Golf Australia website as to what his special temporary membership means. And shout out to Ryan Fox from New Zealand who got the same
absolutely. Like Russell Crowe, we should adopt him.
Yeah.
Foxy.
Yeah, I love Foxy. Yeah. Great guy. Yeah.
You couldn't not like the guy. It's just fantastic. So those two will be interesting to watch. You wouldn't be surprised to see Cam Davis do well again this week.
Joint,
He's not a peak and trough kind of guy in that way. I'm going to take the lazy way out here and tip Spieth because I think like Augusta National, if he likes where he's playing, then he plays really well. Doesn't matter what's happened before, the month before, the week before, injuries, all the rest of it. If he's there and teeing up, he's a chance to win it. So I'm going to go with Spieth.
So similar, perhaps. I'm looking for somebody who's a quality player who didn't perform well last week, and Max Homa is the one for that.
I looked at Max and thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Really disappointing last week.
Yeah.
Considering I tipped him as well, that was very disappointing.
Just doesn't lift in the big ones. I think it was you pointed out, Logue.
Yeah.
We went through, record is really not as quite terrible in the majors.
He's too good not
too good a player. You wonder if it's now a bit of a mental thing, but too good a player not to be.
You almost saw on day one because he played with Adam Scott, and Adam Scott was playing really well, and you could almost see Homer's frustration growing with look, what he's doing is what I should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you could almost see him making. he just looked stressed and didn't look comfortable in the situation. And yeah, he'll get over that at some point, hopefully soon. Because I was
really excited by both Adam Scott's outfit on day
very
one
much, yeah.
and by his prospects after day one.
Yeah.
But then he played it away in both of those areas.
He played so well on day one, and then just hit in the greenside bunker, left it in there, and it was just. And then the next day to still be hanging tough, he drove it so wayward on day two, hit 2 fairways, I think it was.
And driving's been his strength.
Driving, driving is the indicator for Adam. If Adam drives it well, he's going to play well.
It's not the putter, it's the...
That is the be-all and end-all kind of at the moment. And then he just had a 3-hole stretch where he just exploded, including flushing a drive down there.
Into the water.
That
350 yards with a 3-wood.
Was a chance, yeah.
Oh, really? Was that on 13?
Yeah, it was on 7 the second round. And he was playing so well, and then those things, and it was the weekend.
Worst rain suit in history? Top 5, wouldn't it?
I didn't hate it.
All the rain suits were pretty poor.
Yeah, I don't like that we're going with all these different colours and the Nike one that was brown that Rory
that was
terrible. He looked like a kid's lunch order being picked up.
Min Woo with the skull on the back. Keep doing that.
Yeah, Min Woo's got good stuff.
You've got the
unlike my live tip, I'm going to go with someone who did play last week, and that would be Tommy Fleetwood. Tied 18th at the PGA, T5 in his previous start at the Wells Fargo. Has to win a PGA Tour event at some stage. So
that they at least notice it on the commentary.
Yeah, that's right.
That he's actually won something.
Mm-hmm. And then this place is elite ball strikers, and Tommy is about as good as you get. So that's that. It's time for some match play and women's golf. Logue, what do we need to know about the Bank of Hope LPGA match play presented by MGM Rewards, apart from the fact you need to take a breath before reading the tournament name?
Well, first of all, I know the first question you're going to have is who are Bank of Hope? And they're a financial institution that serves mostly the Korean American community.
Misnomer? Is there such a thing as a Bank of Hope?
No, it's pronounced Max Homer.
It's nice.
And it's Mrs. Thank you.
And presented by MGM Awards. So MGM Rewards are a loyalty program for MGM Resorts. Who are MGM Resorts?
Casinos.
Yes, it's a hotel group with many assets around the world, but particularly focused in Las Vegas, 14 properties in Las Vegas. Where the tournament returns to Shadow Creek, another Tom Fazio design.
The Faz having a big week.
Yeah. It's right in the middle of the desert. So it's financed by casino mogul Steve Wynn. And it's fair to say a lot of earth was moved to create this oasis in the desert.
Is it not known as the most expensive golf course in the world?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Also features some spectacular waterfalls, many water features. And those water features and fake creek beds were created by the artisans of Outside the Lines Construction Company, this is from their website. They crafted a trickery of nature with rockwork and water features, with creeks and waterfalls framed by majestic mountains. They complemented the dramatic landscape by building nearly a mile of flowing rock bed streams that traverse the lush fairways. This mythical golf course makes you forget you're actually in the Nevada desert.
I've already forgotten.
The Nevada desert, probably a beautiful landscape all of its own. I don't know. You're always on about golf in the desert, shouldn't be?
It is always. Don't you think the aerial shots of desert golf are enough to make you say, you know what, that doesn't belong there?
Yeah. Well,
Nevada's landscape is kind of fascinating. Like when you're there and you look through the deserts and stuff, and then there's mountains that get snow on them at the top of the peaks and stuff. It's quite beautiful in its own way.
To be fair, you can see
I play
those
golf
mountains
in Nevada, and it's quite an amazing place.
Those mountains frame the vistas on this golf course, but it's just you could be in a tropical island. Yeah. It's just so green.
Yeah.
So interesting achievement to build a course there. That's probably all I'll say about that. So defending champion is Korea's Eunhee-ji, which took 111 holes for her to win last year. And that's a thing about this tournament. It's grueling.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I think
it's a big final. 111 holes.
Sorry. Must have been a tight match.
There was a lot of extra holes in the semi and the final, I think. So, but I do think it's a factor in some players' decisions not to play this event.
Yeah, the field this week is not great.
Yeah, if they play well, they get rewarded with this punishing stamina test across a very big golf course.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a 64-player field. It starts a day early as well, so there's round robin Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is the round of 16 quarters. Sunday is semis and championship match. So it's a lot of golf if you make it through all of that.
Well, this is where who was it? got through to the third or fourth playoff and just conceded the match.
Yeah.
Shan Feng.
Was it? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
She did too. Yeah.
Just knackered.
Just went,
they playing?
I'm done.
But it was the week.
Okay.
They were playing
It was the week before
the week before
US Women's Open.
Yeah.
Some notables in the field Daniel Kang, who's always someone to be reckoned with in match play. Recent major winner Lilia Vu is in there. Lynn Grant playing in the US.
Okay.
Now that she's able to get into the US. Ali Ewing as well, who's won this event previously. Australian Sarah Kemp and Karis Davidson are playing. My pick is Chinese player Shi Yulin.
Playing well this year too.
Playing very well. Yeah.
Been there or thereabouts just about every week.
Logue? Rod even?
I always look for at least one surprise finalist in match play. There's always somebody jumps up that you don't expect. And I think that many won't be picking her this week, but I'm going to go with Gemma Dryburgh of Scotland.
Oh,
just the sort of game to do well in match play. Yeah. Doesn't do anything spectacularly, and she's the sort of player you'd be at the 17 thinking, how am I not 4 up? I'm clearly so much better than her. I do all these things better, and yet she's always in it. And I think match play will suit her. Had a win on the LPGA now. She won in Japan. Was it earlier this year or late last year for her first title, Gemma Dryburgh? I've watched her out here. She played a lot of the Ladies European Tour events, the New South Wales Open, those sorts of things. Really solid. Nothing spectacular, but really solid and a really tidy, well-managed game, good emotional control of herself. So I like that in match play, and I think she might surprise this week.
I'm not sure that John Huggins going to be happy with your pronunciation of her name.
Dryburgh?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to try it, but I'm not sure that he's going to be happy with that. So
I'm sure
we'll check in with Huggy.
I haven't paid
Is
for his
it an
thing about
Edinburgh
Colonial, so.
situation?
Yeah, I think it's one of those.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Danielle Kang for me. Match play, she becomes something of a beast. Probably not a pleasant one to play against, I can imagine. She's a Vegas resident. She's one who's played the golf course a lot, whereas most of the others don't get to play a place like this very much. So perfect for her.
Kang Dryburgh final.
There you go. Heard it here first. Finally, we're going to go to the Netherlands, and excuse my pronunciation, but Bernardaus Golf, Logue? No? Okay. This for the tournament that was once known as the Dutch Open, but is now the KLM Open, which has been at this Kyle Phillips designed course since 2021. They label it as an inland links, and it's the course is a bit of a star this week. With anyone familiar with Kyle Phillips's work, that places like Kingsbarns in Scotland, he creates kind of modern linksy versions of things in places that aren't real links land.
Yaz Links in Dubai, did he do that?
He did that as well, correct. So this is ranked number 8 in Holland. There's lots of really interesting bunkering, a lot of land movement on a sandy base that was dug up, then replaced with topsoil, then the sandy base put back on top of the topsoil before it was actually sodded. So I don't understand how that works, but interesting nonetheless. Bit of water weaves in and out in these really interesting little hazards, particularly on the back 9, kind of the anti-Trump DC.
Any waterfalls?
No waterfalls to my knowledge, no. It's got some huge modern clubhouse though. So it's got this kind of like older styled golf course and then this monstrosity clubhouse.
No fake creek beds?
No.
Not even a golf course.
They didn't engage the artisans of Outside the Lines Construction Company?
There was no mention of artisanal work.
Okay.
So Scottish-based Frenchman Victor Perez beat Ryan Fox in extra holes here last year, and Perez returns to defend after a T12 at Oak Hill. Lots of familiar names from the DP World Tour teeing it up, including National Open machine and the first Polish player to do everything in golf, Adrian Logue. But also we get former young superstar Renato Paratore in the field, which is always good. And Joost Luiten leads the home hopes. Blake Windred, the only Aussie in the field, looking to follow Stephen Leaney twice, Graham Marsh also twice, and Jack Newton as Australian winners of the Dutch Open, which actually has a tremendous winners list. So you go through the recents and you get Sergio Garcia, Thomas Peters, Martin Keimer, Lee Westwood. Go a bit further back, you get Colin Montgomery, Bernhard Langer, Jose Maria Olazabal, Sevi, Flory Van Donk, and the brotherly duo of Percy and Aubrey Boomer. So, good list.
European tournaments, we underplay how fabulous they are. You look through the winners list, like whenever these come up in these weeks.
That's not even going into. There's a lot of
Hong Kong Open's one.
Hong Kong Open, great winners lists, and they've had great events and really exciting tournaments. And we just focus on the PGA Tour so much these days, which I know is a point of contention generally. But tournaments like this have these fabulous histories, and we should pay them more respect.
So on to some tips. I was very tempted by Mike Lorenzo Vera this week. He's got a bit of form coming in, but I'm going to take one of Logue's discards from the year and go with Ryo Hitsatsune, who's back in form with 2 top 20s on the trot. So
yeah, I've given up on him. It's good luck with that.
Who would you like instead then? How about we give us that?
I'm going with Victor Perez to back up a second year in a row. I think it's just hard to go by.
To go play a major at Oak Hill, jump on the plane and go to Holland.
He was smashing it on Sunday, and then what happened? I didn't see it. He was scoring outrageously on Sunday, but he finished 1 under or something.
Yeah,
he was at 4 or 5 under at one point.
Yeah.
Not hard to do at Oak Hill, not to suggest that.
Is it a high energy level at the moment, I think, and he's going to carry that through to defend
I think he's going to be playing Ryder Cup at the end of the year.
Yeah, agree. And I really like him. Any golfer who moves to St Andrews gets my vote.
Yeah.
Well done, Victor. Yeah. And lives in St Andrews, so good on him.
Rod?
Eddie Pepperell. Shocking start to the year. Not bad the last couple of tournaments that he's played. He's played very few tournaments, actually, but played quite well here last year, and people have been needling him on Twitter. So he'll be in that kind of mood.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Eddie come up trumps this week.
Okay.
Good one. That brings us to a close for episode 15 of Playing from the Tips. We'll be back next week as always. And for all your updates and results on these events and so much more, head to golfaustralia.com.au. There you can also subscribe to our magazine with the June issue on sale now, featuring John Rahm on the cover for our US Open preview. There's a look into simulator golf, a road trip in New Zealand, chat with Tom Doak, and so much more, including our 2023 golf ball guide. Thanks for listening.
Review of Caddyshack 2.
And a review of Caddyshack 2. My apologies.
Who did the chat with Tom Doak? I'm looking forward to that.
Great question. Can't remember.
Doesn't matter. It'll still be a good interview.
It is a very good interview. Yeah, worth it. Yeah.
Bye-bye.